Hi everyone, this is Clinton Lofthouse and welcome to photomanipulation.com, the best place on YouTube for creative walkthroughs, advanced photo manipulation techniques and speed edits. So today we have a bit of a longer tutorial for you. What we are going to do is I have created an image called Attack of the Pumpkins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of behind the scenes of the shoot, a time lapse of the different shoots. There was 2 shoots involved, and then we're going to go into a walkthrough of the editing process. So get ready, I hope you enjoy, and if you like this video please like and subscribe, and please share as well. We truly do appreciate it. We are going to be uploading 5 videos per week on this YouTube channel, so any help from you would be great, and we hope you enjoy the content. Thanks lots guys, and let's get on with the tutorial. So let's jump into the BTS, but before we actually get to that, here is just a quick video of the sketch that I did before I even shot anything for the image. So I had the idea of doing some sort of fun Halloween image, and I remember watching The House with the Clock in the Walls with my son, and there was a part with some pumpkins what were attacking him, and I thought, oh, that would be quite fun to do with my son. So here I just mocked up a little bit of a sketch in Photoshop, using the 2 background images that I did actually finally use in Photoshop. So as you can see, there's me and my son on the right hand side, the pumpkins attacking my son, and I've got a lamp in that black thing is actually supposed to be a lamp, and then there's the pumpkin biting into my leg, and you've got the green mist behind us, and you can see me just as well going through a little colour, bit of a colour scheme on Adobe Colour as well, just thinking about colours. And this is how rough your sketches can actually be before you start anything in Photoshop. As you can see, also there's the pumpkin on the left and there's the pumpkin on the right at the bottom. And then I just did a little bit of a quick colour grade as well. And then sketched a moon into the sky, and then did the mist on the floor, and basically this was my sketch. So just moving into the studio area now, as you can see we had 2 rim lights set up at the back with green gels on, and a large optor at the front just behind the camera for Phil. And this is my son pretending to be dead in the studio. I don't know if anyone's ever shot with children in the studio, but it is a nightmare. So basically I got my son to dress up in this Halloween outfit, which we bought from Amazon for around under the £10 I believe, and bribing him with candy I got him into the studio. And then, not to let anyone down, I also took part and I bought this beat outfit again from Amazon for around the £10, and a few other props. We brought the trick-or-treat bag and the scythe that you can see is put together now. So we spent about 2 hours just going backwards and forwards and having a laugh and taking pictures in the studio. Again, just using those green gels to get the green rim light on us, the models, as I knew already the background of the image, and it's always good to think about your background first. And now we move on to the editing section of the video. So here I am just editing together 2 images, 2 images of my own, what I took in Scotland. And sometimes just blending environments it's nothing it's not an exact science. It can be a lot of using layer masks and blending in and out and just seeing what works and what patterns match. And it's all about just playing around and seeing, working the image until you get something what is good enough to use as your background. So then I just deleted this sky with the masking tool, and now I'm using the pen tool to cut out my sun, and I will be cutting out myself the same way. So these images, as you saw earlier, are from the shoot in the studio. So I always use the pen tool to cut out just because it gives you the best selections. If you use the quick selection tools, then you always have to go in and refine it anyway, so you're better off just using the pen tool at the beginning. So I'm just masking my son now and using refine edge on his hair. And it doesn't always work, but when it does, it's good. If not, you can just paint in some hairs later. And now I'm just going through and cutting out myself with the amazing stockings on. So I'm just going around my body now with the pen tool in the amazing bee suit. It looks like a it wasn't very appealing, the suit, to be honest, but all in the name of comedy. And it was only like £10 off Amazon or something along those lines. So now I'm just getting the figures into the image, and I'll start now playing around with the sky. So when you start a large composite, it's in the beginning, don't try to be too precise, just get the elements in and then just start kind of getting your composition together and thinking about colours. And then once you get your composition together a little bit, then you can start cleaning up certain areas. So obviously there was a lot of trees in this image, so I had to go around and start masking out the sky. I see on these buildings here, I had to go through with the pen tool and just try and get rid of some of the previous sky from the other image. And sometimes this is not the most fun part, but you have to go through and zoom right in and clean your images up, otherwise you'll just notice the fringes and the halos later on, so you're just better off getting it done in the beginning. So I'm now just using the brush tool and on a layer mask just painting away the sky from the tree. When you zoom out, you won't notice it as much. Not sure if I actually got rid of this tree altogether or not, but we will see later on. So now I'm just using the curves to bring the tone of the image down, as it was too bright, as the image is going to be set at night. So now I'm just going over the trees on the left hand side. I was using overlay on a layer mask, and sometimes that can get rid of the fringing, but it doesn't always work. So now I'm bringing the models back in, just making sure the composition is decent. Now these trees obviously still have a lot of the previous sky in, so what I did was I used the layer mask to darken them, inverted it and then painted in the dark around the trees to get rid of the sky, and it did it quite well. Now obviously, because we're going to be backlit, I decided to use a curves adjustment on me and my son and bring down our tone so we're darker, and then obviously brighten up the highlights, as eventually there will be some green light coming from behind us. And now I'm just cleaning up the right side of the image and playing around free transform of the sky. I'm just trying to get the position of me and my son correct. So this is when I'm going to start bringing in the mist, the green mist, and I wanted it to be behind this mound what me and my son are going to be on, so it's emanating from the graveyard. And then if I wanted to put some over the top of that, I could just paint some on a layer above that layer if I needed to. So now just using an atmosphere cloud brush, which I believe I got free from Flern. That's a mouthful to say, isn't it? Free from Flern. Years and years ago, and I use it on all the images. So basically what I'm doing there is just painting with a brush on different blend modes, just to get that mist effect. And then I started it, just painting it over the grass a little bit. And now I'm just starting to cut out all the other elements of the Trick or Treat image, of the Attack of the Pumpkins image. So this here is the Trick or Treat bag that we bought off Amazon also for 99p, I think. and that's going to be flying out of my hand, as is the sweets coming out of the bag at the same time. So I've just now put that in. Now I'm going to go through and cut out these chocolate treats, chocolate goodness, which my son devoured after the shoot. So yeah, I'm going to cut these out and then bring them in so it looks like they're all flying out of the bag. Again, just using pen tool and then moving them into the layers panel. As you can see in the shoot, I was just throwing them up in the air and getting my friend to press the trigger. So I'm going to bring them in and then mask them out with the pen tool. What I did here was mask them out and then just invert the mask. And then added a little bit of motion blur. Now I was just playing with the mist. I wanted the mist to be more of a neon green. So with a hue saturation clipped to the mist, I just then started messing around with the hue, making it more green and bringing up the saturation. Again, with my images when I'm editing, it's a bit more organic. There's no structured workflow going in and out of certain things. I try different things like this here, switching the two characters around, but I didn't like it, so I switched them back again. Don't feel like your workflow has to be rigid. It can be very organic, and that's the way I like to work. And if you've ever seen Eric Almus's tutorials, that's the way he likes to work as well. So if he does it, we can do it. And here I am just adding some of the rim light to the church. Again, I just used that on a blank layer, painted it on with the layer, blank layer clipped to the church, and it was on a color dodge blend mode. Obviously, because there's lightning in this area here, so there would be some sort of rim light on this church and then also on the gravestones as well. So here I am again, painting that in, this time on linear dodge. And now I started playing around with a shadow. I just duplicated my layer, used the levels to bring up the darkness, and then just pulled it out underneath. And here I am again now on linear dodge, just painting in these highlights onto the graves. Quite roughly, as it's in the distance, you can't really tell when you zoom out to how you would look at the image. But it works when you zoom out, and then I just lowered the opacity down. Now I will put going in and just refining the mask a little bit. Sometimes when you use the pen tool, you have to make sure you pen tool a couple of millimeters inside of what you're cutting out, otherwise you get a little bit of fringing like that. And then if I do get that, it's just easy for me to then paint it away on the layer mask. And now I'm just using painting in some face paint to match my outfit on a blank layer on a soft light blend mode, just painting in face paint as if I'd actually painted my face like my son, which I didn't. I wouldn't let my son go to town on my face with face paint, so I would probably end up with a paint brush in my eyeball or something. So here I am cutting out the pumpkins that we shot in the studio also. So I separated the bottom of the pumpkin mouth and the top on two different layers, and then just brought them together over my leg so it looked like the pumpkin was biting onto my leg. And then again cleaned up the mask with the layer mask. Everything I do is non-destructive, so layer masks, smart objects. So you can go in and out of all the different layers, and if there's something wrong you can go in and change it, and you can just adjust everything all the way through the process until you maybe use a plugin later on which is destructive. So I'm just bringing in the other pumpkin now. And then I wanted rim light on both sides, so I just duplicated the pumpkin, flipped it, and then put it on a linear light blend mode. Is it linear light? On a light and blend mode, maybe, to get the rim light on both sides. And now I want it to look like the weapon, the scythe, what my son had, was closer to the screen, so I made it bigger and blurred it a little bit, so you get that kind of depth and 3D feel of the scythe. Is it scythe or scythe? Scythe, let's call it scythe this time, is coming towards the screen. So what's going to be happening is a pumpkin's jumped at my son, and just as it's coming towards him, he's hit it with his weapon, and then he's destroyed the pumpkin, and there's bits of pumpkin juice flying out and bits of pumpkin flying everywhere. So now I'm just using some free splash PNGs and textures that I found on free stock sites, then just using hue saturation and painting on a blank layer mode with the blank layer clipped to the splashes. Adding a motion blur to that. Obviously if the pumpkin was moving it would be blurred a little bit. And now I'm just going through and cutting out the little pieces that I shot in the studio. Just going through them all, and then eventually I kind of crop them out in Lightroom and could use a pencil to come out, and then I just bring them into the image and place them where I want them to be. So I kind of played around with this for a little while because it looked alright, but it just needed a little bit of refining later on. As you can tell from my editing workflow, I kind of go from one thing to another, as I mentioned. So now I kind of left the other pumpkin on the left and then decided to carry on working on the pumpkin on the right. That's ADHD for you folks. It's quite a fun way of working though. You don't get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. So what I'm doing now is bringing some more splash onto the left of the pumpkin side of the right side of the left pumpkin, and eventually I'll put some overlapping the pumpkin so you kind of get that 3D effect as well. Now I did believe I put one pumpkin in the foreground. Obviously the story is like there's multiple pumpkins attacking me and my son. Lots of pen tool. One day I'll outsource all my pen tool because I've used the pen tool enough in my lifetime. So if anyone fancies doing all my pen tooling on my images, please get in touch because I'll be truly grateful, and I would pay you in thanks. And a pat on the back once a month. So what I'm doing now is I'm bringing in some I wanted it to look like maybe a little bit of the pumpkin had splattered onto the screen of the whatever, the camera or the viewer's eyes or whatever. So I used an overlay for that and just put it onto a screen blend mode. And now I'm just adding in more splashes. Again, I wanted to add some more pumpkins in, so the old trusty pen tool was out again. And I didn't actually use this pumpkin on the right, so it was a bit of a waste of my time actually cutting it out with the pen tool, but there you go, sometimes these things happen. So now I wanted to add a little bit more rim light to things, so I go around now adding blank layers to all the different elements, clipping them, and then just painting rim lights on the things where I decided it needed more rim. So on the pumpkin, on the trick-or-treat bag, on the sweets, and then I even did some on myself, and I enhanced the ones on my son a little bit more as well. So again, just using a brush, this time set to normal, and then I went over again with a softer brush just to kind of get that fade off of the rim light as well onto some of the black. Going down and doing my sexy legs in the stockings. Now just enhancing again in the same fashion the rim lights on my son. I did decide against the ones on the right, I believe, later on down the line, and now just adding also a little bit of rim light to the sweets. Now painting a little bit of rim onto the pumpkin as well on the left. Again, just on a blank layer, clipping it to the actual item and then our object, and then just painting it in with a brush. It works on either normal blend mode or it can be linear dodge blend mode. So what I did then was I added a gradient map, a black and white one, and set it to luminosity, and you get this really nice contrast when you do that. Now painting in the glow on these pumpkins, again quite rough, just with a brush on a linear dodge and sometimes screen, but more just painting in like the orangey yellow colour, so it's like maybe they had some kind of candle inside, but once they've turned into these I don't know, monster pumpkins, it's just turned into a bright light and they're alive. So as we're getting further down now, we're getting towards the end of the image, so I just started refining little things. Again, I always start off, everything's quite rough when I start off a composite, and then I refine and keep refining as I go along. And what you'll notice what I did as well was I pulled in the contrast, but then I enhanced the rim lights as well, so you kind of get this backlit, very stylized feel to the image. Added some light to the lantern as well, the same way, just on a blank layer using a linear dodge and then pulling down the fill. And now just playing around with the rim lights again a little bit. I'm a big fan of the old rim light look. And now pulling down curves again, just on the models to darken them so the rim lights stand out a bit more, and then going over and again extra rim light onto the models. And now playing with the tone, the bag seemed a little bit too light. Obviously if it's backlit it wouldn't be as light, so I pulled down the tone on that curves, and then I just added a little bit more of a shadow in by my feet. Don't know what that was. That was by this time Photoshop was lagging a lot because this was a massive file, so sometimes it just went a little bit crazy, which was quite annoying to be fair. So what I'm doing now is I was just trying some, because the refine edge of the quick selection didn't really get all the hairs I wanted on my son's head, so I then just painted some in with a brush, just sampling the colour of the rim light and then painting it in behind my son's head, and then just lowering the opacity of the hair layer a little bit. And then I added my colour grade, so basically it was a gradient map with some greens in, and then I added a selective colour to get some colour into the shadows, and that was a red. It works together quite well complementary wise as well, green and red are complementary colours, so if you can get them into your colour grade you get a nice colour grade like so. And if you look at it, it can sometimes totally transform your image. And you mix that as well with a little bit of dodge and burn, as you can see on my son and on myself. I didn't do loads, but it really brings out the features in my son's face, and it brings out little details as well in the clothing. Again, if you go over the bee outfit as well, I added some dodge and burn to that, and a little bit dodge and burn to the pumpkin on my leg, and that's it. So that was maybe a 6+7 hour edit, all confined down into a speed edit of 20 minutes. So I hope you've enjoyed this very long probably tutorial of the Attack of the Pumpkins from the beginning, where I showed you the BTS of the shoot. So we went into the studio, shot myself and my son and the pumpkins in the studio, and then brought the image into edit, and we brought the little sketch on the rough sketch that I did in Photoshop to life. And if you think about the sketch and then look at this image, it's not very far away from actually what I sketched out. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If it's brought you any value, please like or share it. I would be truly honoured and I would be very grateful for that. And please subscribe to the channel, because we have 5 videos coming every week for you, and they're only just going to get better and better every week, and I'm so excited to be a part of this. So thanks a lot guys, and I will see you next time.